Someone asks if you're okay, and for a split second you feel angry, not at them, at yourself, for being visible enough that they noticed. You've spent so long learning to hide it, learning to carry it quietly, that the moment someone sees through you, it doesn't feel like care. It feels like failure, like you've broken some unspoken rule you didn't even know you were following. You smile, you say, "I'm fine," and you mean it. Because fine is the only thing you've ever been allowed to be. You don't remember deciding that your pain didn't matter. You just remember the moment you realized no one was coming. Maybe you were 8, maybe younger. You were standing in a room or a hallway, or maybe outside, and something inside you was breaking. Not dramatically, not loudly, just breaking, and you looked around the way a child does, expecting someone to notice, expecting someone to ask, to stop what they were doing and see you. But they didn't. They kept moving, kept talking, kept existing in a world where you were small enough to overlook. And you learned something that day that you've never unlearned. You learned that needing help makes you invisible, or worse, it makes you inconvenient. So you stopped needing, or you pretended to. You became the child who didn't cry when they fell. The one who said, "It's okay," even when it wasn't. The one who learned to swallow everything, to fold their pain into something small and silent, something that wouldn't take up space or demand attention. And everyone praised you for it. They called you mature, independent, strong. But you weren't strong. You were just alone, and you learned to call that strength because there was no other word for it. You're older now, maybe decades older, but that child is still inside you, still standing in that hallway. I'm still waiting for someone to notice. And the cruelest part is this: even when people do notice, even when someone asks if you're okay, you can't let them in, because somewhere deep, so deep you've never said it out loud, you believe that your pain doesn't deserve space, that needing protection makes you weak, that if you admit you're struggling, you'll become the kind of person people tolerate, not love. So you keep saying, "I'm fine," and every time you say it, you abandon yourself a little more. You've gotten so good at it, so good at scanning the room before you speak, at measuring how much of yourself is safe to show. You've learned to gauge people's capacity before asking for anything, and most of the time, you decide they don't have it, or maybe you decide before you even ask. Not because they've told you that, but because you've trained yourself to assume that your needs are too much, that your feelings are too heavy, that if you let even a fraction of what you're carrying spill out, it'll be too much. So you don't. You hold it, you carry it alone, and you tell yourself that's what adults are supposed to do. But here's what no one tells you. You didn't just stop asking for protection. You stopped believing you deserve it. You don't know when that happened. Maybe there wasn't a single moment. Maybe it was just cumulative, small enough that you didn't notice until it was already true. You start to think that maybe, on some level, you're the kind of person who's supposed to handle things alone, that other people get to be cared for, held, and protected, but not you. Not because the world is cruel, but because there's something about you, something you can't name, that makes you unworthy of that kind of softness. And that belief doesn't just live in your head, it lives in your body, in the way your throat closes when someone offers help, and in the way you flinch when someone gets too close, not because you don't want it, but because you don't know what to do with it. You've built an entire life around not needing anyone. You're the friend people call when they're falling apart, but you never call them. You're the one who listens for hours, who shows up, who carries other people's weight without hesitation. But when it's your turn, when you're the one who's drowning, you smile, you deflect, you say, "I'm okay." Really. And you mean it in the moment because you've convinced yourself that being okay is the only option. And people believe you because you've made it so easy for them to believe you. You've removed every sign, every crack, every indication that you might need something. And then quietly, You resent them for not seeing through it, for not knowing that when you say, "I'm fine," what you're really saying is, "Please don't make me admit that I'm not." There are moments, though, moments when the mask slips, when you're so tired that you can't hold it anymore. Maybe someone asks the wrong question at the wrong time, or maybe you're just done, and for a second, you think about telling the truth, about saying, "Actually, I'm not," but then something stops you. Fear, maybe, or shame. The belief that if you say it out loud, if you let someone see how much you've been carrying, they'll realize you're not as strong as they thought. That you're not the person they needed you to be. So you swallow it again, you pull the mask back up, and you keep moving. Protection isn't something you receive. You know that now, you've always known it. Or perhaps you just can't remember a time before you were aware of it. And the cost is this. You've never known what it feels like to let someone else carry you, to fall apart and trust that someone will catch you, to need help and not feel like a burden for needing it. Because no one ever taught you that needing is allowed, that pain is allowed, that you don't have to earn the right to be cared for by being strong or quiet or easy to deal with. You just are, and that should have been enough. But it wasn't, and now you're someone who's spent so long protecting yourself that you don't know how to let anyone else do it. You don't know how to say, "I'm scared," or "I'm overwhelmed," or "I don't know if I can do this alone." Yeah, because those words feel like admissions of failure, like proof that you're not as capable as you've pretended to be. So you keep pretending, you keep holding it together, and you keep waiting for someone to see through you without you having to break first. You didn't grow up fearless. You grew up afraid, not of danger. You know how to handle danger. You're afraid of your own vulnerability. What happens if you stop holding everything together? And someone who's learned that the safest way to exist is to need nothing, to ask for nothing, to be so self-sufficient that no one ever has to worry about them. And people admire that. They call it strength. They call it resilience. But you know the truth. It's not a strength, it's survival. It's what happens when you learn too young that no one is coming, that you're on your own, and that the only way to make it through is to never ever let anyone see how much it costs you. You're still that child, still standing in the hallway, still holding your breath, waiting for, you're not even sure what you're waiting for anymore. Permission to exhale, maybe. Someone to say, "You don't have to be fine. You don't have to carry this alone." But no one says it. And even if they did, your throat would close before you could let them stay.